Party with your host, Dustin Rybka.
Hello and welcome to Sex Party. I'm your host, Dustin Rybka. This is episode 46. My guest this week, Amanda Pahl. She is a sex therapy grad student. She's the host of the Mandy podcast. This is a fun conversation. Amanda reached 400,000 followers on TikTok. And because of the efforts of a group of old white dudes, she was deleted and had to start over. We talk a lot about sex, kinks, what got her into this work, what keeps her going in this work, all sorts of things that I think you'll really enjoy, including 2 nifty arm tricks that you can do during sex. We also talk about how and why the vibrator was invented. There's a lot going on. You'll love it all, I swear. So without further ado, this is my conversation with Amanda Pahl.
This week's conversation.
Amanda Pahl, welcome to Sex Party. How are you?
I am so good. Thank you for inviting me to the party.
Yeah, no, it's always good to have guests at the party. I think this is going to be a blast. I have a lot to talk to you about. For the people in the audience who don't know who you are, they don't know what you do. Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Amanda. The internet calls me Handy Mandy, and I am in grad school, about 2/3 of the way done, to be a marriage and family therapist with a specialization in sex therapy. So I'm pretty much taking what I'm learning from school and interesting conversations that I have with people along the way, and making it accessible online. I have a podcast where I go in depth on the topics that I'm studying. And then eventually I'll be a whole licensed therapist and we'll have even more to talk about.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It sounds like a lot of school. So, huge, like I could not imagine going past the obligatory like 4. I didn't even make it to the 4th year. I was like, you know what? We did 3. It's fine. I'm out of here. So congratulations there. That's always a giant thing. Is there anything that you went into this field with where you like immediately you were like, oh wait, this isn't what I thought it was going to be?
Yeah, I feel you on the undergrad. It's awful. Like no one studies what they want and it sucks. And grad school was like 10 times better because you're studying what you're actually interested in.
Right.
But I think I had this idea that sex therapy was going to be like teaching people how to squirt and how to have tantric hands-free orgasms. But people don't come to therapy, no pun intended, because they have amazing sex lives normally. They come because there's an issue big enough to need therapy. So first you're like fixing, helping them work through the hard stuff that's not fun to talk about. And then maybe eventually you get to the spicy things. And I think a lot of what I put out online is the spicy fun stuff, but behind the scenes, like I'm reading research about cheating and not fun things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I feel like more people are affected by the not fun things, the anxiety, the OCD kind of shit that affects people and in their sex lives, and they're not talking about it, right? And so that's why I asked that question, because I think it's really interesting. I think a lot of people go into that field and they're like, oh shit, fucking gangbangs, or what's the psychology behind wanting to have a threesome or things like that. And then you get in there and you realize, wow, okay, there are these things that people get hung up on that seem basic, but they're like really intricate and not fun at all. Kind of scary, actually.
For sure. And it was definitely a reality check for myself because, I thought that I was a perfectly normal, well-adjusted, like lady in the streets, freak in the sheets. And then as I went through all of these topics, I was like, oh yeah, I'm minorly fucked up in 1,000 areas too, and have to like as I'm learning things, my little flags will go up and I'm like, oh, that's me. Like that's, you find things that apply to you. And I mean, it forces you to look at yourself a little deeper, but all for the best, I think.
Yeah. I mean, can you say anything more about that? Because I think that's big in terms of people. I mean, I would imagine, and if I were going to therapy, which I have gone to a ton of therapy, but if I were going to pick a new therapist, I would want to be like, okay, this person has gone through this stuff. I'm not so weird. I'm not so crazy. Jury's still out, but because they've gone through it too, so I feel connected to that person. So when you say you had these realizations, like, and just like ballpark, because I don't want to like push you to talk about anything you don't want to talk about, but what was something where it's like, holy shit, wow.
I have a relationship example and a sex example. So relationship wise, up until a few years ago, I would lose myself in relationships without even realizing it. And I had not an anxious attachment style, but I would have so much anxiety around things that were out of my control. So even if I trusted the person that I was with and I knew that they were out for a night, I would just spiral in my own head about well, what are they doing and who are they with and why haven't they texted me for 3 hours? Like, are they alive? Are they cheating? Like, I wouldn't behave on it necessarily, but I would sit there all night, just spiraling and stressing, and nothing could calm me down. And that's when I realized oh, those are intrusive thoughts. This is a manifestation of anxiety and a little bit of OCD. And once you learn what it is and you can name it, then it's just my brain, concocting things and not necessarily based in reality. And then a sex example, I think a lot of us just inherit messages about how we're supposed to be sexually from the world, from your friends, from porn, whatever. And so I always had this idea in my head that it took me forever to reach orgasm. It took so much work and it was so difficult. But then I realized it's not how you see in the movies. It doesn't only take 30 seconds of grinding to reach orgasm for most people. That's just unrealistic. And so longer, I mean, not even 15, 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes even, for a lot of people that's the norm. You just don't see it and nobody really talks about it. So it wasn't anything that was wrong with me or that I needed to disclose to people. It's just expectations that were based on what, Disney, Grey's Anatomy, whatever it is.
Right. And so to push in on that one a little more, when you would see scenes in movies, right? Some fucking rom-com or whatever the fuck, right? And it would be a quick 30-second, 40-second, if we're feeling frisky, sex scene. Would that make you feel like total shit about yourself then? Because you didn't think you were capable of that, and oh my God, something's wrong with me? Or
I think it was way subtler and more sneaky than that. I would watch it and be like, oh, that's what sex is. That's what's hot, is if you're not breathing heavy and sweating in an elevator, then you're having mediocre sex. And I think I didn't even make the comparison between myself and that until I listened to people talk about the effects that TV and Disney movies, I think even you talked about, can have on people. And then I was like, oh, I was just judging myself based on fiction.
Yeah, and it's always an elevator, right? Love in an elevator. It's always the fucking Aerosmith song, we're banging in an elevator. Hurry up before the door opens. Oh, we got off just in time. It's just a bunch of fucking
three
bullshit.
floors is all it takes.
Yeah.
Just a slight breeze.
Yeah, it's you get in the elevator, hit the button, go for it, right? If someone jumps in, it's okay. We've already finished. Come in. We'll look at each other funny. No, I totally get that, because even as a man, at least for me, right, in my experience, it's I have to get everybody off as fast as possible. And if it goes on longer than 30 minutes, I'm a failure, right? And so I had that going around forever and still do a little bit to this day. So I sort of built my sex menu around how to get someone off super quick. And the thing is that I think you find out with more experience and in your case, like life experience and studying, right, is that not everybody gets off from the same shit. Everybody's different, right? It might take, fingering somebody or going down on some, or a combination of both or whatever. And I think nobody is spreading that message. So when I look at your stuff, and when I did, I'm like, I have to get her on the show. There's a lot of amazing shit in there that's not like some 20-second scene in a movie. It's more real, but it's still, you always seem to find a way to do it. You have like your own style to it. It's really like fun. And like, I'm wondering if you could talk about, so you're in school, you're studying, like when was this decision to do that stuff on TikTok and on Instagram and like just be yourself and have fun about it?
Oh, this is a story I've never told. And honestly, it's so ironic. I have been wanting to be a sex therapist forever. Like since I was young enough to know what sex was, I was just naturally interested in it. Not even myself, just in general, like the whole topic. Had some bad experiences that made me even more interested. Went to school, studied it, but I always had this idea in my mind that like I couldn't start publicly speaking or like educating until I was fully a therapist and I had the information to back me up and then letters behind my name. Like it had to be super official or no one would listen to me. And so I just never went for it. And then I broke up with a boyfriend who, let's admit, was holding me back personally. Like I just wasn't being my full self with him. And so kicked him out of the apartment. And this apartment actually. And 2 days later, I made my first TikTok just being like, I'm never going to know if I don't try. Like it will be cringy when only 2 people like it, but I just have to get over that and shoot my shot. And I started out by giving guys tips on dating apps, like how to use them, what kind of pictures to use, like what to talk about. And it took off. Within like 2 months, I went from 0 to like 200,000. And I remember like this time last year around Christmas, it spiked. But then at a certain point, like even with coding my language and saying like, the bean instead of clitoris and things like that, like I got onto the wrong side of TikTok and got shut right back off. So it's been like a constant like rebuilding. I've just been kind of doing the same thing, even when it's, not heard by many people, but I don't know. I've always just talked about sex very openly. And like, I know a lot of, especially like sex therapists and educators, it can get clinical. Like you can get stuck in your therapist brain. But I try to keep it a good balance of like research and knowledge, but in a way that people are interested in listening to. And just the way that I talk about it, I mean, seems to resonate with people. Like I try to make it sound natural.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the right fucking place on the show because if you've ever seen it or heard it before, I am not an expert. I never will be. And, this podcast sort of like careens between like value and like total chaos, which is exactly how I wanted it. Cause I just think you're right. You can't be too clinical, but you also want to be somewhat in control. I will not comment on if I've had any alcohol today, but people who have listened and watched, they get the whole point by now, right? You said a couple things that are really, really interesting. One, your TikTok gets shut off, right? And correct me if I'm wrong. You were near or at or above like 400,000 followers on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
So what did that feel like? Did it feel like a betrayal? Did it feel like the death of a relative? Like what did it feel like when that happened? Walk me through that experience.
Well, I knew it was coming because TikTok, the app, and like the moderators don't care what you post. They only care if enough actual people with accounts care. So somehow I ended up, and this is not a read on anyone, on like angry conservative old man TikTok. I don't know if they were the audience that needed the information that I was putting out, but I have a group of people who used to meet on Reddit and discuss my content, and then as a group flag and delete it, like get it flagged. And so I had 2 different posts flagged and like temporarily taken down. And I know that it's a strike system. It's like numbers. So I knew that I had like 1 chance left. So I was really clean with my language, and I would like make, innuendos instead of actually saying what I wanted to say, and just like really trying to keep it. If a child was watching, like they wouldn't know what I was talking about. But it got flagged on a sponsored post, actually. Like a company was paying me to talk about frenulums, penis things, and it got taken down. And I knew, like, I saw it coming, but it was just such like a punch to the tit. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, I knew that it was going to happen, and I knew that there were ways to move forward, but it felt like everything that I had built and like worked towards was just gone because of who, it wasn't dirty. It was based in science, but all the things on TikTok that could have been taken down, I just took it personally that it was my stuff and not, I don't know, OnlyFans.
Yeah, leave it to the old white dudes to fucking ruin everything. Sex, reproductive healthcare, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They just come for everything and complain and then they move on to the next.
I've already been canceled. I'm canceled.
But see, now that you're canceled, you can get back like without anything holding you. You already got the worst out of the way. Fuck them, right?
That's true.
And you started a new TikTok. Obviously, that's amazing. There's a bunch of good stuff on there. So, are they trying again now to fucking get you removed or what?
I think they are trying, but I'm also being super careful. Anything that I really want to like get across, I'll do on my podcast and just make like a slight joke and point them to the podcast, because I can say anything I want. I'm the only one who can cancel myself on a podcast. And that's why I chose it. But I have been flagged for the word procrastination, which I thought was pretty clever. I was filming on the toilet, just saying like, procrastination. Like, I know I have a paper to write, but whatever. That one got flagged. But even TikTok, when I like appealed it, was like, no, you're fine. So it really is like a game of numbers. And I can see how many people save my posts, which is a little scary. Like when I get more saves than likes, I'm like, don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But also a lot of people think that they can in the future like blackmail me with this stuff. But if you've met any sex therapists, like the top people in our field are doing the exact same thing. Like this isn't something I'm going to be ashamed of in 5 years. Like this is the standard for my job, which I know is different than like lawyers or politicians, I guess.
Yeah, and like fuck them. I mean, I wish they would come for me at some point, and hopefully they will. So like whatever. I already had so many problems with TikTok, and I barely put anything out. So I'm wondering though, like, what do you think that you said that like pissed them off? Like, what was a certain thing? Like, was it a dick size thing? Was it a fucking what are they fucking crying about now?
No, I don't. I think it's just me, to be honest. I think it's the way that I talk about it. And I mean, I used to like when I started out, I would like make fun of guys that do certain things. But it was never
That'll do
malicious.
it.
And well, that might have been my bad. But I've noticed like some of the sex educators, professors, like doctors that I follow will just say it like it is, like suck her clitoris and finger her G-spot and lick her butthole, and they get millions and they're totally fine. But then I say procrastination and I'm gone. So I don't really know what it is, but I know not to take it personally. If anything, like it's men feeling intimidated, which is super validating.
Yeah, see, no, it has nothing to do with you. 1, 2, they're definitely threatened by you. And 3, I think you should just keep making fun of dudes that are doing the wrong shit. Because when dudes do the wrong shit, that just makes all of us, and I'm not just talking about guys, it like literally drags down. I've said this on the show before. it drags down fucking everyone. And since men are, I don't know, like in control most in this world, and this world's a great place right now, isn't it, y'all? That's all
So
dudes.
awesome.
So like we need to fucking like, go a different route maybe. So I say you keep making fun of the idiots and keep roasting them and just keep being you, because I think in the future you're going to have like immense success with everything you do, because you do have that thing where it is value yet entertaining. And it's a shame that like, you'd have to skew that because of a bunch of fucking little dick dudes that are fucking pissed about it. So I'm on record saying, fuck you guys. I'm right here. Come for me. I'd love some of that engagement.
Well, thank you. So
Cause
I'll
I'm
point
like
them
putting out
right
like,
to you. I'll send them over.
like a fucking, an arrow and shit. I mean, I've been like editing my TikToks and like, okay. So, and this brings up a good point, right? So you're in the sex field, and we've had like religion, we've had all these different things being like, no, 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 that's bad, only for us, not for you, throughout history. And now, everybody lives on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. Twitter's kind of questionable at the moment, but everybody's online, and now those people are acting like, no, 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 no. So how does that feel as someone whose life is sex, whose passion is sex, whose interest, career is sex, to be shut down for sex?
It's funny. I don't feel, I feel bad for everyone else. And maybe that's narcissistic. But like at the end of the day, I will never be in need of a job. Like everyone has sex problems, everyone has relationship problems, even the conservatives, even the super religious people. At some point in a lot of their lives, they're going to have an issue that they want an expert for. And like really, I'm always going to be doing what I'm doing. It's just about whether or not how much I can talk about it online. And I think like if I have to code my language and make like fluffy little TikToks and talk about sex more in depth on my own, like on a podcast or something, that's fine, because I'm just gonna keep doing it anyway. But also if like religion, politics, whatever, everything ebbs and flows. Like right now, censorship is pretty bad, politics are pretty bad, don't have a ton of rights like we used to. But like 8 years from now, it'll probably swing the other way. And so you just have to keep going no matter which direction everyone else is going in. Just like stay on your track. And like I had a pity party when I got kicked off. Like it sucked. Cried, got drunk for sure. But like picked myself up and just started over again. Because I mean, sex is something that everybody does. Whether or not you want to talk about it, at some point in your life, you might need help. And then you're going to wish that you didn't censor all of the helpful education.
Yeah. I mean, again, everybody bitches about people getting their education from porn, which is so stupid that anyone would ever consider entertainment education, but whatever. Or they get their education from like shitty school people that aren't allowed to put a fucking condom on a cucumber or whatever the fuck. But then there's people like you who are like, hey, this is fun. And also, if you want to get your girl off, if you want to have it, this is what you do. And this is funny. And like and subscribe, a-hole, like, or whatever. And then they fucking throw you out too. So everyone's like, it's like, what are y'all doing? Really? Like, we're gonna go another 100 years where we can't talk about fucking G-spots?
And like that's the crazy part is I've had all kinds of sex ed in my life. Like I've been in schools for missionaries where it was abstinence only and masturbation doesn't exist. My parents are very good at sex ed, like they were open. But if you're not willing to teach it in schools, because it is a health thing, at the very least, teach it as a health concept. If you're not going to teach it in school and you're too uncomfortable to talk to your kid, but porn is the devil and you can't watch it, then where like sex is just like being born and dying. Like it's a fact of life, and we've industrialized both ends, but for some reason the middle part, like the way the human race is sustained, like even if we're just bringing it to the basics, like how is that dirty? I don't know. I don't get it, but I understand the perspectives other people have and why they think that way. I just think it's ignorant.
It's really ignorant. I think you bring up an amazing point, right? It's like not only are we going to make money off of birth, we're going to make money off death, like you said very eloquently, right? But the people who make money off sex are then the bad guys that fuck you, and you guys are dirty and peddling fucking poison to my daughters, whatever. And it's like, I don't understand. This thing makes us all feel good. I always think it's something tied up in religion, but the older I get, again, I just think it's the old white dudes. And maybe the old white dudes like need to have more fucking love in an elevator, right? They need the fucking elevator sex or something. I don't know.
Or they need to realize that the elevator sex doesn't work, and then they'll find a sex therapist who tells them that they're worth more than how long their penis is, and then they'll be like, oh, I get it. You're not a stripper. You're a therapist. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I've been saying. I'm not trying to have sex with your husbands and your daughters. I'm just trying to like help everyone love each other.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, people are just like threatened over like the shape of a fucking M&M or something. Like it's just something weird every fucking week, right? With the conservatives. Get a clue, guys. Okay, so if we go back to your origin story, right? Because every great hero or villain has an origin story. What was it about sex? Was it something growing up? Was it something that you experienced? But what made you interested in doing this as your life's work?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, that's my dog.
Oh.
She's going crazy. Even as a kid, it wasn't.
Uh-oh.
She doesn't like when I talk about sex. It wasn't like any traumatic experience when I was young or like, well, I did have some curious interests that may persist to this day that I was like, I don't think this is normal. I should probably figure out what that's about. Like kinks and things.
Sure.
But I just asked my parents, like, I read the word tampon in a little machine in the bathroom at the Packers stadium. And I was like, what's a tampon? And my mom like explained that. And then I was like, okay, so what's sex? And I like prompted them to tell me as much as they knew. And then I lived in a like very conservative, I lived in China for a few years. And the school that I went to was an international school, like founded by missionaries, non-denominational, like, but super like, picture the Duggars, like the Duggar family, those values. So I was the devil, and I like was slut shamed at 11 for showing my shoulders, all that stuff. And I knew, like, I grew up in America, so I knew that this was like, they were crazy and like they just have this bubble going on. And so I just rebelled against them in every way possible. Like, you don't want me to talk about like sex, I'm going to talk about sex. You don't want me to go on Omegle and talk to strangers on the internet. Like, I'm going to do that. Like, I made all the bad decisions. And then I got back to the US and kind of evened it all back out. Had some very coercive sexual experiences when I was younger and like developed a lot of empathy. And by the time I got to high school, I was like, this is the only thing that I can do for the rest of my life and love. Like, I can talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, about sex, and like, I will never change my career. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I can talk about it without getting uncomfortable. Like, it's just what's most interesting to me.
Yeah, that's awesome that it seems like, or it sounds like it came from a place of rebellion, which is always a fucking great place to come from, because that's where like exactly. You stole my hand gesture, and that one too. People on YouTube can see that. People on the audio platform, you have to jump over to YouTube to see what we did. But I think I think the best things come from rebellion, right? It also sounds like the rebellion met a genuine interest with sexuality and just that curiosity that I think a lot of people, they start to have maybe as just like a human, and somebody like slaps it down and says, no, that's wrong. Yeah, exactly. And my parents were very like nurturing of that. They were very cool about it. It sounds like yours were too. So do you credit them for being very open about it, that helped you progress to where you're at now a little bit?
For sure. They were open, but they didn't, they instilled like some underlying values, like wait till you're married, which then turned into like wait till you at least love them. They answered every question that I asked, but they never told me more than what I asked for. So it was very age appropriate. And I think even like you say, like I started in rebellion. That's true. And that's so badass of me. But it was never with the intention of like sexualizing myself or like sticking it. I mean, I am trying to stick it to the man, but it was never an intention of like being bad. It was, I saw opportunities where it could have been normal and people just like, yeah, like you said, like slapped it down, pushed it down and tried to make it bad. And so that made me want to say like, well, no, actually it's not. And I'm going to prove to you that it's not. Like, it wasn't rebellion against like piousness. It was a rebellion against people trying to suppress it. A rebellion against a rebellion? I don't know. Have to think about that.
There's a right rebellion and a wrong rebellion. I guess it just depends on what side you're on. But like, I just think that knowledge, and especially sexual knowledge, is like, if you look at history, right? I'm not going to nerd out too hard. But like they try to keep it from poor people or like peasants or like regular people, right? Because a couple of guests on this show have come to the conclusion, like a turned on society, especially of women, like they just think like, oh, we can't have that. No one's going to want to work. And then how are we going to get our computers or whatever fucking dumb shit, right?
The women will stop being like slaves to the system and want to do their own stuff. And like, we've already, like women entered the workforce, like World War, whatever. I should know that. Like we're past that point. We're at the point now where like education needs to catch up because we've already made all those advancements. Like your worst fears about if your wife learns what a vibrator is, she's going to divorce you. Like, no, she's just going to ask you to like help her with it. Like, I think it's just a lot of fear of losing power and fear of the unknown when in reality, like everyone just wants to nut.
Yeah, no, it's fucking well said. Everyone just wants to nut for sure. And I think that if everybody did that more, we wouldn't have people like fucking bombing each other and shit. And again, yes, I'm getting a little fucking woo woo for a second, but come on, guys. She said it. Everybody wants to nut. Jesus Christ. And what's wrong with that? It's a natural fucking thing, right? That's what's crazy to me is people, they rebel against something that's like, it's there and it's human, right? It's not like some weird drug that everyone's like running around snorting. I mean, that can be part of it if you'd like, but it's in our bodies. It's there. It's accessible. And yet, no, we can't have that. So all of that being said, right? How did you arrive at the name Handy Mandy? Is this a hand job thing? Is this an inside joke? Is there something going on with your hands? Are they real? What's happening?
They are real. I have 10 fingers and long nails that everyone makes fun of. Obviously, I not with girls because that would be a problem. But I think I just had like a regular TikTok name, like my name, and then I realized like, nah, we're gonna need something catchy. We're gonna need something a little scandalous, but not like I don't want people to. Well, okay, I don't want people to think I have like an OnlyFans account because that's not what we're selling here. But there are OnlyFans people named Handy Mandy, and they're beautiful women. But people used to call me, like, no one calls me Mandy. Somebody did. And it made me so mad. But I realized, like, this is too good. I love me a sexual joke. I love me, like, a euphemism, an innuendo. And so I just did it. And I think the original Handy Mandy was taken. So I put my, like, phone number, area code in there. And now, like, people that I don't know have came up to me and been like, you're Handy Mandy. And I'm with my mom. And I'm like, shit. Yeah, I guess. But I mean, hand jobs are underrated. No one gave me that name, but I will say hand jobs are underrated and they are beautiful things when done correctly. So I'm proud of that name if it has to be mine.
No, I totally agree on everything you said. Hand jobs are underrated, especially from the right person who knows what they're doing. They're insanely underrated. But so you're in the grocery store with your mom, and someone comes up and says, "Oh my God, you're handyman." Does your mom know what you're doing online, or did she think that was like some stripper thing? Or
No, they know. They love it. My dad, my mom will comment on my posts. My dad was the first one to
love
text
that.
me when my original account went down. And he was like, "What happened?" Like, he was ready to fight. And he's an old white man. And even he was like, "This is ridiculous. You didn't do anything wrong." They love it. They are now at the point where instead of sweeping things under the rug on Facebook and at family dinner conversations, they will like be the first ones to support me and say like, "It is a real job and she needs a master's, and like, yeah, she's young and whatever, but this is a job and she's doing it and it's perfectly fine," and love them for that. Handy Heather and
No,
David.
yeah. That's fucking shout out to Handy, Heather, and David. I mean, that's incredible. We salute you as parents. I mean, you're the future, right? Your daughter's the future. I mean, come on. That we want more of that, right? When I started Sex Party, I was really nervous. I don't really get nervous in the traditional sense too often, but I was like, "Mom, I'm gonna do this thing. It's a podcast." She's like, "I think it's amazing. I'm gonna listen every week." And so we started doing that. I think we got to like episode 20 maybe. So she hung in there. She's like, "I can't listen anymore. It's getting crazy." But she's, commenting on everything. Every once in a while, she'll share something even. And so we love a parent who gets it and understands and is supportive. I mean, come on. Can you ask for anything more?
Oh yeah. And every time, like, I think my dad has said like, "Okay, that one was a little too much. It like, you're my daughter, whatever, boundaries." I'm like, "Well, you guys raised me. So you're the example of a relationship that I got. So everything I'm doing technically according to attachment theory is based on you, so it's your fault." And he's like, "Well, can't argue with that." But yeah, they're the best. They're the best.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay. So you're doing the TikTok, you're doing the podcast. So when does the podcast, like, when does the idea hit you? Is it before the TikTok goes down? Is it after?
It was before. I think I had the goal for myself. This is so tragic. That if I hit 500,000 TikTok followers, that was just like a benchmark that I had. And I was like, it would have got there eventually, that I would have enough confidence. Like people are interested enough that if I did a podcast, they would listen. And then I got executed at 400,000. So I was like, well, fuck it. If TikTok isn't going to let me talk about clitorises, then I'll do my own podcast and I won't have to censor anything. And like, we'll just see what happens. And there really wasn't an expectation. Like, I really started back from zero. And what I found is like some of the people that are on my like Instagram account, I didn't expect this, but like they look forward to it and like interact and ask questions and will like send me DMs based on things that I've said. And I'm like, oh, okay. People do want to know more. They just have to go through jump through all these other hoops to get there. Like it had to be off a major platform, like completely controlled by me in order for it to work. And it's definitely like, it's a whole different beast, I'm sure than TikTok or Instagram. Like it's so much more work and whatever, but the freedom is like what drew me to it.
Yeah. And especially for what you're doing, right? Like, I mean, it's sort of like it's running parallel to your work as a sex therapist, and I think that's huge to have that outlet where you can talk about things in general that are happening that you're seeing more of on the podcast. So what are some of your favorite topics? I mean, not just on the podcast, but in general, like, and what are you talking about then from what you're digging on the podcast? Are you taking everything or are you leaving some things out?
Um, I'm not taking everything. A lot of the theory, like, people don't want to know who came up with this specific therapy model. Like, it's just not applicable to a lot of people unless they're going to be using it. So
Mm-hmm.
some weeks, like, there were a couple of weeks where I just learned about kink, and I'm like, that is my gold star. Like, if I was going to specialize in anything, it would be kinks and fetishes. And I pretty much spewed all the information that I learned because people like need to know it. Like, just because you're into feet doesn't mean that you're a pervert. Like, just because you like Boston Steamers, but just pooping on somebody's chest, like, it doesn't mean that you won't find someone who's into that. Like, there's something for everyone. But then topics like the one that I'm putting up this week is on cheating, which is kind of a little bit outside what I normally do, but useful enough to people. I kind of just pick and choose the things that I find interesting. And then literally, like, while I'm doing my homework, I'll take notes. When I plan for the podcast, I'll pull the notes so that people are learning the very best of what I'm learning without all of the like hard reading and expensive textbooks.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. One thing that you said, right, that the idea that there's like all of this shame around kinks, like somebody out there is like running around in a trench coat like at night, like afraid to show their face anywhere, right? Probably on the internet, not in real life, because like they like to bang to like the DuckTales theme song or something that's weird to everybody else, but to them it's like, I can't help it, man. This is
Right.
whatever. And so if everybody's running around like that, you're right. There does need to be some sort of like relief to be like, hey, just because you're into that cartoon theme song doesn't mean you're alone, doesn't mean you're a freak. I
Mm-hmm.
always like bash myself for being like, oh, like my porn search history is disgusting and da 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 da. And like people have corrected me, like, hey man, you don't need to say that. And I'm like, you've never seen it, but like you're right. So whatever. So I think that is really important around the kink thing. And if we dive more into the kink stuff, just as like a kink for dummies, like kink 101, what are some of the more common kinks that you see in your work, on your podcast, in your life? This is like a top 3 or something.
Yeah, the more common ones, I would say there's a lot of cuckolding, a lot of like adding people in with an element of degradation, but like consensual degradation, which is totally fine and cool. That would probably be the one that I'm seeing the most right now. I would say fetishes are like objects and body parts that aren't traditionally considered sexual. So then, like, you can group like feet, socks, shoes, um, belly buttons, hands, ears, leather, latex. That's pretty popular too. And then I'm trying to think of what. Oh, I mean BDSM. But I don't even consider that like a kink or a fetish because it's so common now. But technically it is if you're going by like what old people would consider kinky. Because like the definition of kink is just any sexual interest outside the mainstream. So like what does that really even mean?
Yeah, I mean, and the question that at this point it's like fun to ask is, I get varying definitions, but what do you think is the difference? And you just sort of said it a little bit, but like let's go further. What is the difference between kink and a fetish? I think this is so interesting.
Mm-hmm. I got this wrong and talked to a kink coach and she set me straight. So I know now. A kink is any interest outside of the mainstream norm. It usually has a degree of control, power, role play, like sensory experiences. And then a fetish is more about a specific body part or object. But there's another definition of fetish, which some say is a little outdated, which just means it's a more intense kink. Like you might need it to reach orgasm. Not in all cases, but like you can have a foot kink where like you watch porn and it has feet in it and you find it like super sexy, but then in real life, like feet don't really turn you on. That would be a kink. But if you're out here like paying girls on seeking arrangements to lick and sniff their feet, that would be more like fetish territory.
Okay. Yeah. So can a kink become a fetish then? I mean,
To a certain point,
technically, sure.
like there's a growth curve. Like when you first realize that you have a kink, you're going to explore it. But there's a leveling off. So it's not like one day you're into being tied up and in a year you're like fully tying somebody up and against their will. Like it's not that kind of escalation. There is a leveling off, but it's different for everyone. So you might think that it's just a kink that you just kind of enjoy like thinking about it, but then when you explore it enough, you realize like, oh, I'm really into this and I only ever want to do this. But most people fall in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, somebody at one point explained it to me outside the show, and they said a kink is something that gets you off, but a fetish is something you need to get off. And then I've said that to other people, like, no, that's not, it's kind of true, but not really. So, like, I love asking professionals like yourself because everybody has a slight different definition of it, and it's like awesome to get everybody on record. And I love how it like kind of moves around, but it doesn't totally change. It's not like
Right.
some weird thing. So thank you for that. And I think you're talking about a lot of the stuff on your TikTok. And I think, a couple things that I pulled from your TikTok, right? So can you explain, you had a TikTok, it's about the arm thing, right? Can you talk about the arm thing?
The arm thing, yes. So that is pretty much if you're fingering a girl upwards where the G spot is. By the way, if you don't know, 2 knuckles in, curve it up. If you hit a bone, you're probably close. It's right above the pubic bone. When you press in, like directly in between her vag and her belly button, where like most women naturally have like a little bump right there. If you press on the outside of her stomach right there, like lower abdomen, while you're fingering her, you'll get the G spot from the inside and the outside. You'll like compress it. So it's like twice the G spot stimulation. And she can do it herself, or like you can do it. Alternatively, if you're, hello, all the people who can see, sorry, if you're like fingering from inside and you have this hand, like one on the clit and these fingers on that spot, then you're getting all 3 and like, I don't know, maximum efficiency.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and that one looked as though by far it was your biggest TikTok that's currently on that right now.
Maybe.
Well, check it out because I think it has like 500,000.
Okay. Yeah. 2 arm things. That one, that's the hand, the arm trick. This one is next one on birth control. This was a controversial one. Somebody made a joke about like being able to feel it inside a girl's arm, and I pretty much said like I have one, and you can feel it. I feel like a little transformer, like it's in there. It's just a rod, but I pretty much stitched it and said, if we're boning, you best believe I'm going to make you feel it and tell you what it is and what it does and why you get the privileges that you do because I have this in my arm. And some people just got so offended, like, what, you didn't get birth control for yourself, it's just for him, or like, she's a cum dumpster. And I'm like, it's birth control. Like, I didn't think it was so controversial, but I mean, it makes sense that it is. But I mean, views are views, and I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, I mean, that one had almost 500,000 views. I did not read the comments because I was like, oh, wow, not diving into that at the moment or whatever. But, you summed it up really, really well. So we got 2 arm things for the price of 1 from Handy Mandy. No, I really appreciate that. The other one that I saw was the spicy history thing, which I hope you make a segment regularly on your TikTok or maybe on your podcast, right? But the reason why vibrators were invented, if you want to give a brief explanation, I think it's amazing for them to hear that.
Yes. So vibrators were originally a medical tool used by doctors. I can't remember the dates or the people, but back before women had rights, they used to think that when women were emotional or depressed or anxious, like common things, that they had hysteria, which just means, for lack of a better word, like crazy bitch syndrome. And so they thought that they could cure hysteria with orgasms. So they made vibrators and doctors as like treatment to this hysteria, which the husbands would bring their wives in saying like, she's crazy. She doesn't want to do the chores anymore. She wants to leave me. Like, what's wrong with her? The doctor would use a vibrator on her to get her to reach orgasm to cure her hysteria. Cringe. It's like, it's just wrong in so many ways. And like, for that reason, we probably shouldn't love vibrators very much, but I feel like we really reclaimed them. And I mean, if a doctor did that now, like they would lose their license or whatever. So I'll take it. We still love vibrators.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things, right? It's like invented for some insane reason, but yet the benefits forever, right? It's like, come on. Yeah, no, and I love that you do that segment. I mean, I hope it becomes like a regular thing. I think it's cool because there's a lot of sex stuff. I don't have to tell you, like obviously, but for the audience, there's like so much sex shit that doesn't get talked about. That's like part of actual real world history that's connected to all this other stuff. So I think it's awesome. Okay, so I have this segment. I have not done it in a while, actually. It's called The Burner. It's like, I don't know, 8 to 12 questions, depending on what I ask. We kind of try to move through it, right, quickly. I don't usually stop for any like follow-up questions unless I get a wacky answer, but it's your choice. These are like kind of more revealing, kind of more fun, right? It's totally up to you. You can go through the burner or you can be like, nah, I'm good. So it's up to you.
Oh, I'm doing it.
Okay. Amazing.
I'm not going to say no.
I haven't had anybody say no yet, but I'm sure it will happen.
Is it like a one sentence answer or do I don't explain unless you ask? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it that way. That's kind of how it goes anyway, but like we'll see what happens. We'll try to move through them as fast as possible. It's fun if we get one that's like, wait a minute, I need more information. Okay. Question 1. Name something you wish men would stop doing.
Jackhammer.
Jackhammer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Name something you wish women would stop doing.
Expecting men to know things without teaching.
Okay. Love these answers so far. Name something you wish you would stop doing.
Doubting myself.
Lovely answer. Have you ever been to a sex party in real life?
Depends on what you would call a sex party, but I'm going to say no.
Okay. Fair enough. Name a person, dead or alive. You can hang with them. You can have sex with them. The catch is that you only get to do that for one day, 24 hours.
Michelle Obama.
Love the answer. Wait, are we having sex with Michelle Obama or just hanging out?
All of the above.
Love the answer even more.
She is a vibrant woman. I have things to learn. I have things to absorb, but like, yes.
No, for sure. We love her. Favorite comfort movie or TV show? What are you putting on at night to go to sleep? Are you like an Office person? Are you like, nah, I'm good? Like, what are we doing?
Sometimes Family Guy, sometimes Love is Blind.
Okay, solid. Most used app on your phone?
Probably Instagram. I'm probably Instagram.
Okay. Did not sound like that was gonna be the answer, but we'll take Instagram as an answer. Flaming hot or probably not. So are you a fan of like the flaming hot snacks and shit?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Flaming hot. Love it. Best kind of music to bang to?
R&B. No
R&B.
doubt.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Love it. Love it. Agree. You got to get the weekend in there.
Yep.
You win the lottery. It's a ton of money, $1 billion. What's your first purchase?
A house. That's
A
not
house.
fun.
Okay. I mean, that's
We're
kind of
being
fun.
realistic.
I'm sure there's a pool in there. That's great. Say something to one of your exes. So just say something to one of your exes. You don't have to say who. Just a blanket statement.
You need therapy. You got to stop cheating on all of them.
Boom. Do you have a Finsta account?
I do.
See, this is what's great about the kind of no follow-ups. That's great. See, we love that. We love that. You just survived the burner. Congratulations. There is no prize for you, but you can tell people, they'll be like, what's that? What the fuck? Whatever. In closing, final question of the interview. You are being shot into space. You're leaving the earth right now. You can give one statement to humankind, to women, to whomever. What is it? Piece of advice or statement. It's totally up to you. It's a tough one for sure.
It's too much. Just talked about my cheating ex and hot Cheetos. I gotta get back into it.
Yeah, it takes a second.
My motto, like my life, what I live by is pretty much everything you do on earth won't matter. So give as much love and get as much love as you possibly can. And that is, at the end of the day, the only thing that you're gonna, that's gonna last. In your memory and other people's memories, whatever.
No, I love that.
Spoken like a true philosopher.
Amanda Pahl, aka Handy Mandy. Where can people find you? Where can people work with you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at handymandy919. You can find me on TikTok at handymandypod. I need all the support I can get. Handy Mandy podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you have any questions directly for me or business inquiries, you can email me at handymandy919@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I would love to have you back. If you'll come back, we'll set it up.
Of course. It was the best party I've ever been to.
Hot Cheetos and all.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Thank you so much to Amanda Pahl for being on the show this week. Go check out everything she's doing on TikTok, Instagram. Check out her podcast, the Handy Mandy podcast. If you are loving guests like Amanda, if you want more, if you need more, if you want more Sex Party, if you're appreciating everything that's going on here and you just can't help yourself and you want to fucking show some support, right? You can do that, and I will tell you how. If you're listening on platforms like Apple and Spotify, you can subscribe to the show. Most importantly, you can leave a rating. You can leave a review. If you're watching on YouTube, I love you. You can subscribe to the channel. You can leave a comment. You can like the video. You could do that. You could tell your friends all about it. You could rent an airplane and fly a banner behind it, but I would never ask you to do any of this stuff, especially that. If you want to talk to me, you can reach out in the DMs on Instagram. And as always, I will see you back here next week.
Thanks for listening. The party continues next week. Click subscribe and let's make this a regular thing. Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at SexPartyFM. Follow Dustin at Dustin Rybka.